Episode 259 of the TV Dudes, recorded October 30th, 2019. That's what I appreciate about you.
That's what you appreciate about me?
So episode 259's.
So, as you can probably tell if you've seen any episodes, we're talking about Letterkenny this episode. If you've not seen Letterkenny, you don't know what the hell we're talking about.
But to be fair.
You guys are in for a lot of this. If you haven't watched Letterkenny, this is going to be a very confusing episode. But we're also going to be talking about Amazon Prime's new Modern Love anthology and about the Paul Rudd vehicle Living With Yourself on Netflix. And before we get into all that, I'm Randy.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Les.
And we're the TV Dudes. And let's start with Letterkenny. And let's do, just like we did last episode with our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. recap, let's talk a little bit of our history of Letterkenny, which is, I know Les's history with it because he just told in an interview that he did with Tyler
Johnston.
Yeah.
Also spoke with Stephen Huzar, who plays Yorkie. And then soon we'll be speaking with the gentleman that plays Bradley,
Nice.
Everybody's favorite cousin.
That's awesome.
And you mentioned in that interview, which, by the way, people should go listen to. It was like the one I've heard so far is Tyler's.
Yeah.
But like 30 minutes of just talking about the show with this guy who could not have been nicer and more interesting.
Man. And it really is like I even say it in the intro, like if you've not watched Letterkenny, this is a long 30 minutes. It's just Tyler and I making in-jokes about it while he ignores a beautiful vacation.
Yeah. And you talk about like Letterkenny began as a YouTube short in Canada and then became a Canadian show and then came down here via Hulu. Season 6?
Season 6 is about when they dropped it.
Which
they dropped all 6 seasons with this promise of like there would be a Hulu season 7.
Yeah.
And I think they're approved for a bunch more. Like they think they've already got 3 or 4 more seasons.
I think they are. And so I started watching this because they were going to be at ATX Fest.
Same.
And I fell instantly in love with it. And it is some of the most amazing dialogue you've ever heard, running jokes and...
The previous year at Fantastic Fest, so not this year's, but last year's Fantastic Fest, Letterkenny was there. And I didn't catch that screening I watched a shitload, like 20-something movies, but I for whatever reason, I didn't catch the Letterkenny screening. I had 2 friends that were already talking my ear off about how great the show was and how quirky and weird. And the buzz on it was, we've seen it now. You either are in for it immediately or this is just not your show.
Yeah.
And so like that was kind of the buzz.
It's one of those that even if it's on in the background, though, you still laugh. Like even if you hate it, you can't not laugh at just like their delivery.
I didn't get into it at Fantastic Fest and then was kicking myself when I caught up on it for ATX. The more I watched, the more it's like a dam that breaks. It's a show that builds on in-joke on top of in-joke on top of in-joke. Every character has these running gags and they just chain together so that you fall in love with it. Like you just live in that town.
And it's about, for those who don't know, it's about a Canadian small town, Letterkenny. There are 5,000 people there. This is their problems. And it focuses on our rural farm guys.
The Hicks.
And then there's the Skids, who are the meth-dealing, techno-dancing characters. And then there's, what else we got? The hockey boys.
Yeah.
Is that I feel like I'm missing a faction.
No,
am I just thinking of the Degens from
players,
Upcountry?
Skids. Yeah, there's Degens from Upcountry, but everybody hates them. Yeah. No, you got hockey players, you got Skids, you got Hicks, and that's it.
Yeah, and there's
no parents. It seems
no parents. So season 7 opens with they decide that Wayne, our lead character, is having too many people are coming to him for advice.
He's not getting his choring done because people are calling him on how to do their choring.
Yeah, and so they advise him to start a local access show.
Yes,
called Crack and Egg.
Yeah, I can do a call-in show.
Yep.
so that you can just help a bunch of people at once get it all out of the way.
All the way. So show's called Crack and Egg, and I bet you can't. So, and so it is. So he sets up the call-in show. Katie's running the boards. The Skids are doing theme music, and there's this amazing runner where they're talking different types of music, which I'm sure is all invented.
That subgenre off
Yes.
is insane.
Yes.
I asked Tyler about trying to get the line straight. He said he and Evan Strong, who plays Rold, practice on their own. Like they show up with their own shit, so that sometimes they forget that they've seen each other in practice do this, and they turn and like the rest of the cast is like staring at them.
And then they have a runner where McMurray decides he's going to create his own show, and they just troll him with increasingly obscene questions about his wife. And there's like they managed to get everybody involved in it. And then I thought maybe that was just going to be like a one episode thing. No, it goes throughout the entire season.
Yep. And the Stewart and Roll develop a theme song for it, which they take very, very seriously.
And there's one of the episodes where somebody calls in and asks them a question that's nothing to do with agriculture.
I think it might be Thibodeau.
It is Thibodeau. Yeah. And they kind of like they greet everything with like when someone calls in, they start talking to them like they're just talking to them at a bar.
So and so's on the line. Is he now?
Yeah, it's always amazing. It's always amazing to them when he's.
Can you hear me? How are you now?
Then we've got the hockey runner. Where we have the big hockey game with what's her name from the she's Wayne's ex.
Tanis.
Tanis, who is like the native crime lord, basically.
Yeah, she sells Lucy cigarettes.
Yeah,
as a crime lord.
she wants to buy into the hockey game, the hockey team.
Yeah, and so it turns into this like you've got to do a thing, and then you got to do a thing for another. Like there's this kind of. She ends up having to set up an exposition game,
and they're doing basically Letterkenny's Mighty Ducks.
Yes,
it's the underdog team of our guys against the professional team, which we turn out is made up of Yorkie and Schultze and
Bartz and all of them.
Yeah, and their secret weapon is that they got Shorzy. Yeah. Who is, of course, the same actor who plays Wayne.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Crack and Egg show seems to be partly invented just to see how many times they can let Wayne get away or let Jared Keeso get away with doing falsetto for a different, because he's also Thibodeau.
And there's a runner involving relationships. What's funny about this is and I don't want to spoil the ending because the ending's a really big thing, but when they get to the final episode and Derry is like, he wants to go find his lost love, and none of them approve of it. And McMurray is the moral center of Letterkenny for a minute, and gets to read back to him, if your friend asks for help, you help him. And they go up to this thing, and it's about whether or not cheating is ever forgivable. And it lands in this big cliffhanger, which I did not see coming at all. There's so much I love about this show. And every episode is hilarious and strange and builds on itself.
For me, this show could have easily been like one or two fun seasons and then found some kind of stride and become boring. And instead, it just keeps getting better and better and better for me. The more you know about it, the more into it you are. And then there was the Canada Gooses episode. And that was the one that fucking brought the whole team together and really made the show hum. And then from there forward, it's just gotten crazier and crazier and crazier. This season was great. I can't wait to see what they do next. Jumping to Hulu did not seem to fuck it up at all.
No, it definitely still works. And
I think everybody's hands off. I can't tell that there's network notes on this shit at all.
I know. Yeah. I was frustrated that when I was watching it, and I started watching, and I said, I am trying not to burn through all of this in 2 days. Mm-hmm. And I failed at that. I burned through it in 2 days. And I got to the end, and I was like, there's only 6 episodes?
Yeah, I don't think this season has its additional holiday up yet.
Yeah.
And I want to say yet. I really hope that I'm right on that.
I hope so, because I want more now. And I
know that they either just finished filming or are about to film the next run. So like they're moving on it.
Yeah. But It's becoming like a phenomenon. It's one of these things where like I'm surprised at how many of my TV watching friends know it. And I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And I think it's going to be one of those things where people are like, you seen Letterkenny? And I'm starting to see things pop up, and Facebook, of course, listening to all of us. But I've seen like I had a Letterkenny quilt pop up in my feed. I did not buy it. I very nearly bought it, but I did not buy it. I did buy a Letterkenny sweatshirt.
I've still only had one person recognize my cap.
Really?
Yeah.
Like Yeah.
So
It's still under the radar enough.
Not enough
but-
that we could get tickets to the live show. Fuck.
I know.
I wish, we have a bottle of Puppers out here on the bookshelf here in
Can
the
of
studio. A can of Puppers. It'd be nice to know if anybody, any of the clients who come through here recognize it.
Get
They
that guy
actually
fucking
film it in
puppers.
Sudbury, which is where that brewery is.
Yeah.
And I think they make. I think they've made more of it.
You guys want to hear a crying out shame?
What's that?
The fine people over at Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes
This can't be scored. The show is unscorable.
do not have a score. There's no
That is
audience
correct.
score.
That is fucking right.
Or there's no critic score. It's got 99% for the Rotten Tomatoes audience score, though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, real quick, you want to hear the over-under if we just do Rotten Tomatoes only?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I'm curious.
All right. Did a
Fuck, I'm surprised we're not hearing over-under right now.
number I. And it's Letterkenny. Where'd you go? Where did it go? Oh, it's 99. So
Yeah.
it would be... Oh, you can get 100%. It is tied with Barry and Catastrophe.
That is accurate.
Yeah.
That is where it should be.
If you do just the audience score.
Yeah, yeah. So, Letterkenny, you should watch it.
Yes.
Yep.
Let's jump a little bit over to Prime, which has a new anthology series, a star-studded anthology series
Yeah.
called Modern Love that is based on a column from the New York Times, Modern Love.
The star-studded cast actually turned me off.
Did it really?
Because when I saw all those big names, I was like, oh, it's going to be some Love Actually shit. Like, everybody's getting paid to come on for like 15 minutes.
I did have that worry when I saw like Tina Fey and John Slattery, and I'm like, is this going to be like sappy? And it's not unsappy. It's got some like
It's tastefully sappy.
yeah.
I'd say it brought a Taster's Choice like tear to your eye, right, Kyle?
Well, so that is the first thing you're going to notice is this thing grabs you in the first episode.
Yep.
I think, not going to bury the lead here. I think by far the first episode is my favorite. Not to say that the subsequent episodes aren't great. But,
Episode 1 was
I just called it it's called The Doorman.
The Doorman. Oh yeah, with Christine Milioti,
Yeah.
aka the mother from How I Met Your Mother,
I really like her. And from A to Z.
and from A to Z, which was such a good show.
Only I
and
knew someone who did a one-season podcast.
But she's made a career of playing these beloved like romantic leads, and in this one, basically, she gets pregnant by sort of a one night stand, decides to keep the baby, and it follows her through that. But there's a very important relationship in her life.
yeah, it's funny because listening to you describe that's not even how I would describe that episode. Like,
Yeah.
that is something that happens.
Yeah.
But the episode, which each of these episodes is very different, so it's going to be hard to not talk about them individually.
Right.
But it goes through her life so quick. We see
Yeah.
the span of like 10 years.
Oh, yeah, for
throughout
sure.
the course of this episode. And you find how these really small kindnesses from the doorman at the building she
Yeah.
lives in, they amount to this very loving relationship. And it's so crazy because it's not like anything sad happens. Obviously, there's sad moments, but it's not like a tragedy in any respect. But just seeing like how when little kindnesses build up over time.
Yeah. So this starts from a point where she's coming back from a date, and she's acting a little squirrely, and she tells the guy like, "We can't." She's like, we can't kiss and you can't come up, and it's like she's like the doorman is like going to judge you, and you're like, well, that's kind of creepy. And it starts off with the creepy place, like this older European doorman named Guzmin, who like won't let her bring a guy home, and who seems to judge all. And it feels like he's inserted himself into her life as an unasked for father figure. Mm-hmm. And at first it feels kind of creepy and intrusive, and I'm like, is this going to be a show about this guy sort of stalking her? But no, as it goes on, you start to see that this relationship is actually kind of sweet, and that she definitely plays into it. And you're like, okay, well, if this is an unhealthy relationship, she has done her part to make it a relationship.
Yeah, he doesn't give her any opinions she doesn't ask for.
Yeah. And then as it goes on, you start to see, oh, wait, there's a great moment where he tells her, he's like, I was never looking at their eyes, I was looking at yours.
Oh my God, that's the moment. Like,
yeah.
That a little bit of, it's probably going to still be impactful, but that was the moment where I was freaking lost.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, I lost it at a couple points, but I was surprised at how overwhelmed with like emotion I was.
And the thing is, it sets the tone because you realize this is not just about a woman going on dates. This is not about finding true love. It's about love. Mm-hmm. Familial love, friend love. It is not just about dating and sex love. It is about that too, but it's about more than that. In fact, one of the other really impactful moments is in Anne Hathaway's episode.
Holy shit.
Which is dark and powerful, and I thought she played the hell out of it.
I know.
But the moment that got me, the moment that had me crying and like just got me, was her friend, a friend showing love to her in a way that she's never allowed a friend to show love because she's never let anyone in that way. Mm-hmm. And when her friend takes the call, and she's already taking, she's like, yeah, I know you got to go. She's already writing her out. She's already given up on her. And her friend is like, tell the guys I'm sorry, I can't make the meeting, and puts her phone away and is there for her friend.
Yeah.
And it changes her life. And it's all she needed. And she says that. She's like, all I needed was one friend to believe me and to listen to me be who I am. And I started realizing I could let people in. Yeah. And it's such an amazing, it's such an amazing portrayal of sort of mental illness in a way that I found compelling and believable and powerful. And that was really good.
My second favorite, if the Guzman was my first, was the one with Adam Scott, where he plays a man in a same-sex couple that is looking to adopt. Andrew Scott, sorry.
So priest.
A little bit of a difference.
Hot priest.
So hot priest Moriarty, all right? He is in a...
Hot priest Moriarty. His name in this is Tobin. Hot priest Moriarty Tobin.
So he's thrown into one of the most interesting stories, I think, throughout the season, which is...
So can I interrupt for a second?
Oh, yeah.
Have you read Dan Savage's book on his adoption?
I used to listen to the podcast a lot, but
so Dan Savage is a sex advice podcaster. He's a gay man. He's been married to Terry, his husband, for a long time. They adopted a kid, and the kid they adopted was from they had trouble adopting as a gay couple at the time. It's an open adoption with a street kid who was basically like chose to be homeless and had drank and that kind of stuff. I swear, I wonder if this is based on that story because that's what this is, right? It's a gay couple who there's this woman who is homeless. The father is some homeless guy that she slept with. She's basically like, I'm going to give the baby up to you. I travel like a
vagabond. That's what I kept saying, or vagabond. That's what I kept thinking.
And it's about the relationship they have with this girl and whether or not they're okay with it, and the sort of how your liberal principles run into reality.
Yeah.
And it felt to me like the Dan and Terry story, which I've read in their book, which I really loved. Mm-hmm. But they did a great job of showing that relationship.
Oh, yeah. And there was such a great shift where in the beginning, Tobin's reluctant. His partner really wants the child, which I'm not going to get into the first few minutes of this episode. But when his partner's watching the nature documentary, was that a little weird?
A little bit.
I think that could have been a little more tastefully done. But no, his partner really wants the child. And then over the course of the episode, it kind of shifts where it's not necessarily that he wants the child more, but you see him getting kind of protective of it.
Yeah.
And there's a real moment of fear where you don't know if she's going to let him have the baby. You know,
Yeah.
like you realize a big part of this is
Yeah.
that you have to go this whole process, and especially in their situation where it's with this homeless woman who they
Yeah.
then invite into their home for like
Yeah.
the later part. You go through this whole thing, and then at the very end, she can just go, "Oh, never mind, changed my mind."
I love the conversation between her and Tobin at the end.
That's it.
Where
That's
he's
where you
like,
lose it.
he's like, yeah, he's basically saying, look, I can't think of giving this kid up now. I don't know how you might feel, and
I
he's
just changed.
Yeah.
And I know you've probably
yeah.
just changed too.
And I
So,
thought that was so
yeah.
amazing, like so
Oh,
good. And
yeah.
then the Tina Fey John Slattery thing that's about a empty nest couple and what that means for them. The older couple at the end and the nature of falling in love at an older age.
Let's
like
do that one at the very end because there's something about that episode that I found really interesting.
and then the May December thing, which is not even May December. It's basically like one of them thinks there's in one relationship and the other one doesn't.
Exactly. I would say that one, I think just as much as the other two we were talking about, probably had this huge impact on me.
Yeah.
In a weird way I didn't even understand. It's a story about a girl who's never really had a father figure.
Right.
And tries to get it from this really weird and awkward place. And it's crazy to watch. She acknowledges that it's crazy.
Yeah.
But then the ending, how like everything is resolved. Like there was a moment where I just threw my pillow into my
Yeah.
face, like couldn't even look at
Yeah.
the screen. And then when you finally get like the conclusion of that story,
Yeah.
I mean, again, I was in tears again.
Yeah.
You know what well, again, we'll get to the last episode.
One
at the
more.
end.
The
Okay.
Dev Patel, Catherine Keener.
Oh.
I love this one. It's nested. She's a journalist. He has a dating app. She asks him about a story. He tells the story of his romance. Halfway through, she tells the story of her romance and
Yep.
how it ties in. And then we go back. It's such a great multi-layered story about lost love and failed love and that
That's
kind
exactly
of
how Cloud Atlas is laid out in the book.
thing. It's way better than Cloud Atlas.
Not the
Yeah,
movie,
a little bit.
the novel.
What's so brilliant about that second episode with Dev Patel is that when you get his story, you know, the relationship, you're like, oh yeah, he got a bad card, you know, fuck his girlfriend, you know, she screwed up, da da da.
Yeah.
But then when you hear her story,
Yeah.
it was almost like his girlfriend's the other point of view.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, except the man in her life took a different approach
Yeah.
than he did. And yeah, it's just such like a beautiful, like symmetrical story.
Yeah.
And even the one that, you know, we're not getting too much into, the broken martini glass one.
Yeah.
Was still like super fun.
I
and
loved
entertaining.
that story.
Yeah.
I loved that story. So I don't want to give away the ending because
Well-
I thought it was such a great moment.
I think we can. Oh, where you find out what they end up doing.
Yeah. It's
Okay, I have a good description
Yeah.
that won't give that away.
Okay. All right.
All right, so the final episode is the only one where when you look at the title card, you don't see like big name actors on there.
Right.
It's an elderly couple, and the story is like just as sweet and just as impactful as the others.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do with this elderly couple story is they deliver a freaking crescendo of emotion at
Yeah,
the end of
yeah, they
this.
do. Yeah.
Where it's like everything you felt from every episode just all hits you at once.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because by the last episode, like we're binging through these. I kept going, all right, this one's not going to get me. I'm stronger than this. I'm not going to
Yeah,
let it get me.
yeah.
And then finally, I had my head in a towel.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even look at the screen.
Yeah.
And I felt it afterwards too.
Yeah.
Like I turned the TV off and just sat there and felt it. I'm not even lying. The only thing I've experienced like this in my entire life is psychedelics, is doing mushrooms. Like I've never been unable to control my crying before,
Yeah.
except on psychedelics.
I would recommend watching this with someone you love.
Yeah.
And it is
Either make
It's-
it way worse or way better.
it's so powerful and it's so good and it's funny and it's sweet and it's got amazing actors, fantastic writing, beautiful production. It's one of my favorite things I've seen this year.
Yeah.
And it's definitely the best thing Prime's ever done.
It is. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
just it's
Except for
very
Fleabag.
I was about to say.
beautiful.
Except for Fleabag, which wasn't Prime originally. That's a BBC
Yeah.
co-production.
This sounds similar. I have not watched Modern Love yet.
Oh, you should take the Don't Cry challenge. Yeah.
I'm
one
gonna fail that.
one
I'm
episode one
on-
without crying.
I'm on an antidepressant that will not allow that to happen. I will definitely cry. If we talk loud enough about this right now, I'll probably cry.
But Grant could take the no cry challenge because Grant's a robot.
Yes, Grant has
There you go.
broken glass in his soul and doesn't cry at anything. This sounds a little bit like Easy.
I was going to make that comparison. You know where Easy is about Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
This is about New York in that same way. It's about love in New York. What I would say about Easy is a little more quirky.
It's less. It seems less focused on the actual heart and sentimentality of it.
Yeah. But you could definitely make a comparison. I would say that someone who liked Easy would definitely like this.
I'm definitely down then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also getting High Maintenance.
I was
vibes.
going to ask if this was because I was thinking when y'all were describing it, I wanted to ask Kyle if this was a blend between High Maintenance and Easy.
Yeah, no, I definitely got. It does that really great thing High Maintenance does, where like New York is a big character within the story. Like none of these stories could exist if they weren't in the city.
Yeah.
So they don't just do it so they have something cool in the background. Like it's really important to each of the stories. But you remove weed and you just put actual love in there.
When you described being kind of sucker punched by the accruation or piling up of the doorman's small kindnesses, and then that gut punch of like you said, not sadness but poignancy of realizing how important those tiny things are in somebody's life, and like that sounded like a very High Maintenance plot line to me. Of like, what am I watching here? Like, I'm watching somebody's not sad life but very empty life, and then this one tiny kindness. Yeah.
Well, and even Aziz Ansari did this with his show on the standalone episode this last season.
Master of None.
Master of None, yeah.
Yeah. It kind of felt like one of those where it's like just this vignette, vignettes in this, but vignette of New York just done by somebody with just such a poetic aptitude and like skill and like assembling the details of the story in such a perfect way that like that punch is delivered spot on, consistent every time. Like, it's scary to think that there could be another season of this show and that you would sit down and have the same reaction. Like, I was surprised that episode after episode, it was still get me. And then that season finale.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite episode, but it definitely was the most impactful.
I did not expect them to announce that it's an anthology and next season's Modern Hate.
Well, there's a thin line between Modern Love and Modern Hate. All right, so let's jump over to our final show from Netflix. Not our final show from Netflix.
You want to hear the overs and unders?
Oh, right. Yeah, give me the overs and unders.
Yeah. So, what was the show again? Modern Love. It's hard because they're not in alphabetical order. So, here we go. All right. So we're around the 40 mark. It's actually got a combined score of 314. If you take all four of those metrics we had discussed in the last episode.
Okay, for a new show, that's...
So is it better or worse than Love? Is it like a new Coke thing?
Did we talk about Love this year? Because that's the other thing. The only shows we have ranked on this list are shows we've talked since January 1. So anyways, Modern Love, it is actually got the same score as that show Emergency on ABC.
Emergence?
That's a show?
No, Emergence. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, Emergence. Yes, I was like, Emergency.
I've never seen that. And I'm not going to tell you the show that's better than it. Actually, no, I can tell you. The Unicorn scored 1 point higher than it in the combined rankings.
All right.
And it's tied with something else, which I'll say later. But then the show that's 1 point behind it is Righteous Gemstones that we just talked about a couple weeks ago.
Which I know you guys like. Some people don't hate Steve, what's his name?
Danny McBride.
Danny McBride.
Steve, what's his name?
That's how much I care about Danny McBride. What is his name? Is his character's name on?
I don't even know. I'm just calling everybody Steve. What's his name? Like, if I can't come up with the name in an instant, I'm calling him from now on.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know where that name came from.
Who's the current pope? Steve. What's
his name? Yeah. All right, so let's talk about a show starring Steve, what's his name? Or Paul Rudd, actually. His name is Paul Rudd.
There you go.
Yes, Weird Al cosplayer.
Living with Yourself. This is a strange little show.
A conversation starter for sure.
So Multiplicity broke as a TV show, right?
Yeah, sort of.
Michael Keaton getting them checks.
Shaving
So-
his tongue.
He goes to a self-improvement center because at his work at his job, he's not
This is
delivering.
the main character, Paul Rudd, playing Paul Rudd.
And he then wakes up in a ditch, naked, in a grave,
plastic bag.
in a plastic bag, and he gets out and he goes home and finds himself there. And throughout the season, we see him. Basically, what happened is this is a human cloning experiment. They usually just kill the original body. He, for some reason, survived.
It's very Rick and Morty.
And then the clone goes on not knowing they're a clone, and they have removed the worst parts of your life. And so you think you went in for this treatment of and became a better person, but in fact, they just took all the bad parts of you and murdered
You
them.
know, there's a whole section of space in Star Trek where everybody the Federation has cloned but not destroyed in a transporter thing. Like, what is that planet? Don't worry
It's
about
like
it.
the trash iceberg. It's just like a body asteroid out there.
But so his
I love this
clone,
premise.
his clone is better at his job and gets him pitches this big client that he wasn't able to get and all this kind of thing. And he's struggling with, well, what does this mean for me? At the same time, he and his wife have been trying to have a baby. He's been sort of half-assing it. Their marriage is sort of falling apart a little bit, but both he and his clone are in love with his wife. They're trying to keep it from her. And they're trying to basically work out this thing of like, well, how can we both have a life without, we don't want to share this life, but I need you to do this job. But I need to be with my wife, and the clone's feelings about his wife are like just as genuine. And so there's this weird sort of love triangle in a way I've never seen it. And it's a workplace comedy in a way I've never seen it. The guy who plays Edgar on You're the Worst is the guy who
Damien
actually
Borges.
Yes, he's the guy who sends him to this clinic, and he hates him because he basically takes away all he gets all the good jobs, and he's basically outshining him all of a sudden. And
You realize he's got a corpse somewhere in a bag. Yeah.
And I think one of the things I really appreciate about this was that it takes twists I didn't see. It doesn't slow down. Like the reveal of, oh, I'm a clone and I'm going to I'll tell our wife about it, comes at like episode 3 or 4. Like he goes out and just like, yep, here it is. And they start dealing with it. And then there's some infidelity stuff, which is sort of, and I like how they switch points of view. So one episode, you'll see the point of view of Paul Rudd. And then the next episode, you'll see the point of view of other Paul Rudd. And you'll see the same events played out from a different point of view.
Did you ever see the movie The One I Love with Elizabeth Moss and I'm blanking on Mark Duplass?
But if you were to tell me this is a Mark Duplass project, I would believe you.
The question I was asking myself in
What's
this,
that?
because I think the show, first off, it opens up this big world to you, and then you get to ask questions about it. If right now you could get your cheek swabbed, all right?
Yep.
So boom, you're going to wake up as a clone
Uh-huh.
on another planet, galaxies,
Sure.
away.
Okay.
So essentially, the you today gets to keep living podcast life,
Yep.
Randy life, but then another Randy is just like, pulled out of a bag on like another planet to like become a pioneer.
Yeah, sure. Do it. Whatever. Sounds great.
That's so wild.
I assume 23andMe has already signed me up for this, and that that my experience of death will be like a blink of a television channel, and then I'm just going to be mining bullshit out on Pluto's moon or some crap. Like,
I did you like this, Kyle?
So I got a couple episodes in, and yeah, the whole premise of this I find really interesting. I did have one kind of significant gripe with it.
Yeah.
But honestly, this isn't something that I don't gripe about every time I see it, but anytime they try to show like an advertising workplace, it's just always such
they all work in
a
a magazine?
yeah, or like some
like so
person
many TV shows?
derails the meeting because he's got an idea, and it's usually some like witty pun, and then everybody's like, wait, yeah, he just thought of a pun. He's gonna save the agency. Like,
That never happens.
no, that never happens. In fact, if you ever say shit like that, they're like, get the hell out of here. Like, what are you doing? No, it's a really hard thing because it's not you're making interesting stuff. The art of making it isn't interesting.
Yeah.
And people keep trying to do it on TV, and it doesn't work.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So would y'all do this?
Would I, if I knew they were going to kill me?
That's the other big question.
If I knew they were going to kill me and let my clone live, would I do it? Yeah, sure. Why not?
I would love to say that, knowing that there's going to be that it's not like an improvement of you, that it's going to make a second you and they're going to have to kill the first one. I would love to say that would make me say no. But really what it wants to make me say is make sure you kill the other one.
Yeah.
Because like if I have to, because as soon as original Paul Rudd walks up to my house, better me's killing him. And then I will sue the living fuck out of that company for making me have to dispose of that body.
And that's what happens in the first episode. When they figure out what's going on, they go back and blackmail the guys to get all their money back plus $10,000.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd have gone back alone.
Yeah.
But
I honestly believe
my own head
that morality, we're like 300 years away from a shift where like, if this technology existed, we wouldn't look at that other person as a body. We'd say, oh, no, I like the consciousness in this good one. Let's kill this person real quick. I don't care if it's me.
Which one of us is the original me? I don't know, the one that shoots first.
But it is interesting that in this situation, Paul Rudd, the new one, his scars are gone.
Yeah.
He's better. He's more fit, da-da-da. But where he has all this stuff that he's gained, he lost everything he remembers.
Yeah.
His wife, his house, his car, his wallet, like... You really don't think of like how much, if you were cloned, like how much crap you wouldn't have.
So did you get through to the end of this?
Got 2 episodes in.
Okay, so you haven't got to the end. Do you mind if I spoil a minor thing? Or pretty big
Love
thing,
me some spoilers.
All right, so I'm going to spoil something for you guys. If you haven't watched this, jump past this because
if you love spoilers, keep listening.
If you love spoilers, keep listening. There's a big thing toward the end where basically his wife, there's this sort of dance thing. This is slide tangent. There's a trope where everyone has this dance move thing with their siblings or their wife that they did at their wedding or at high school. Do either of you guys have a dance move that you've done with a partner at some point that you could go back to?
No.
Not at all.
No one does this, but is a constant trope now that I see. I think it happened in Modern Love too at some point, or it happened in something else I watched. Oh, maybe it was one of the sitcoms I was watching, but there's like, let's do the dance moves that we did in high school. And I'm like, none of you had that. You don't have a dance with your...
Ross and Monica.
Like Ross and Monica. Yeah. So there's this little dance thing they did at their wedding where they had a whole routine. And I'm like, nobody does this. But it plays off well because the clone tries to do it with her on a date and it's kind of awkward and it doesn't really work. And then actual guy does it with her and it reminds her why she loves him. And it's like she's in love with the flawed version. She's in love with the real version, not the perfect version.
Aww.
And it's basically yeah, you can't get rid of all your flaws because the best version of you is probably less interesting.
Well, and the version like what you think of as I got to be better at X, Y, and Z, and everybody's mad at me for A, B, and C. That's not really what other people are giving a fuck about.
Exactly.
Like nobody knows about X, Y, and Z that you ought to be doing, and nobody's mad at you for A, B, and C most of the time. And so, like, if you went and fixed all those things, you would end up ditching stuff your partner loves.
And I think that's kind of the point. And I think that's what's interesting is they go into the premise starts off as here is the good clone version of you, and we quickly realize that no. It's just a different version of you. Like he's just as flawed. He's jealous. He's angry. He's dangerous in some ways. Like the clone version is in no way perfect. He just has different flaws.
Well, it was interesting in those early episodes because you start to wonder if the wife doesn't deserve the better clone.
Yeah.
Like because he does some shitty things.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, he's not the greatest guy. Like this other guy, he's essentially him, except, not a dick.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder.
There's a Paul Giamatti movie from a few years ago called Cold Souls, where he's an actor. He's playing himself. He's playing Paul Giamatti, and he's an actor. He's Paul Giamatti. He's on stage doing Uncle Vanya, very sad Russian play.
Sure.
And he finds this company that will take your soul out and store it and give you a different soul.
I think I saw this movie.
And they give him the soul of like a Russian girl, and he kills it in Uncle Vanya. But then they lose his soul. They misplace it.
Yeah.
And he has to go a period of time without one, and he's wildly inappropriate but incredibly happy
Yeah.
and horrible.
Yeah.
So that like his wife's like, some friend of hers dad has died, and he immediately is like, oh, all right, whatever. I mean, like the next question he asks is like the most horrifically inappropriate thing you could say to someone, you know, like and he's just, all right. That it kind of reminds me of the things that I was hoping that they would get into with this setup.
And that is kind of there's definitely a lot of sort of existential.
Effective you is not better you.
There's a lot of existential identity questions here about like who's real and what is real and what does that mean? What do you want out of people and that kind of thing. And I found this really interesting. It reminds me a lot of some of the weirder stuff Netflix has done, like Maniac and Russian Doll,
Altered Carbon.
So
not quite as Altered Carbon. That's different.
So the way that all Black Mirrors are apparently just one piece of technology that we should not invent.
Yeah.
Like whatever slowly develops into the eye, like the brain in
Altered Carbon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like but like all of Black Mirror has the same piece of tech in various iterations. It seems like. And Altered Carbon has the stacks where you can swap.
Yeah, swap
so
bodies.
Like, what if this is the Black Mirror style, like early version of what becomes Altered Carbon?
Right.
Like, I would love an Altered Carbon season 3 for Paul Rudd to wake up.
What's interesting is this is so much not about the tech thing though. Mm-hmm. Like the tech is just a MacGuffin to get to Paul Rudd's, and then it's all about what would you do if you were two of you.
Yeah, because I think what happens is when you see him in the situations, like I was mentioning earlier, just the whole thing of, I don't have a credit card, I don't have a driver's license.
Yeah.
Like, it opens up that world, and you're like, whoa, what are the other implications?
Yeah.
Like, if this technology existed.
Also, you get twice as much Paul Rudd, and that's never a bad thing.
No.
Paul Rudd's great here. And the rest of the cast
cool
is good, too.
How he's able to make them two distinct characters.
Yeah, for sure. And some of that is done with hairstyle. And sort of one of them wears nicer clothes and that kind of thing.
Like, I mean, good actors can really kill it on this. Like J.K. Simmons was very much two different people in counterpart, regardless of clothing.
Yeah. This is light and fun, but it's also weird. I think it won't be for everyone as a result of that. But it was funnier than I expected it to be. It was more poignant than I expected it to be. And I definitely kind of burned through it in a couple of days.
I've already had some people message me about it. Of like, have you finished this yet? I want to discuss it.
Yeah.
I figure there's got to be more to it than what I thought in the trailer.
It's got some stuff to say. It's not just jokey. It is funny. It's not depressing, but it has some poignant moments. Like the tone is interesting. The tone is right, and the story is good, and it asks and answers some interesting questions. I definitely. Modern Love came and blew it away for me. I mean, Modern Love was one of the best things I've watched all this year. But I was definitely happy to have watched it. October was a really good month for TV, you guys. As I look back at everything that was on, like the last couple episodes we did, we talked about
a bunch of stuff I love.
Undone that was great, The Politician. Like it's been a really good month for TV. Like a lot of my best of stuff is going to be coming from stuff this month.
Yeah.
So
that's what we think. But what does the internet think?
Okay, what does the internet think?
Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb. Let's adjust them. There is one show that is 1 point lower than this.
Okay.
Can you guys guess what it is?
No.
I'll give you a hint. We talked about it tonight.
Oh. Is it Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
It is not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that was last week.
Oh, you're right.
Do you mean real time tonight?
Yes. No, Modern Love. They're right there. Modern Love's got a 314.
Is that because they dropped about at the same time?
I don't think so. These scores...
Just coincidence?
Yeah, I think they're coincidence.
So Modern Love is ranked slightly below this by the internet?
It's 1 point below it.
That is incorrect.
And then Living With Yourself, it's tied with Emergence. They both... Or no. It's tied with The Unicorn.
Okay.
Which I really like. But then... The show right above it with a 316, Catch 22, that George Clooney show.
See, this seems unfair. Like one of the, The Unicorn, you can't be done with.
Yeah.
The rest of these, you can have binged the whole season already.
But the Unicorn,
It's even all done now. But the Unicorn is still an ongoing specimen.
Oh, true.
So
are you ready for this?
It's about as insane as Randy saying that a show is, Good Place worthy at 1 or 2 episodes.
These scores could be completely different in the morning. Like, before I went this week, I went back and I checked a lot of them that I knew we'd be talking about. Because, they're always changing. I mean, only by a few points here and
the
there.
longer this thing's out, the more people can vote for it until it eventually achieves the kind of status that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has.
What's funny is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually above all these shows we've mentioned.
Of course. It has 6-7 seasons under its belt.
Yeah.
And the sexiness of Phil Coulson.
There you go. Oh, I guess that would skew the rate.
Having been at a table with the dude really is sexy.
I imagine the dude's charming as hell. Yeah. I wish he was in a better show.
One day.
It's soon. There's only one more season.
For real. He can never leave.
All right,
the show's canceled, but Coulson lives. He's just sitting in a white room, like hanging out in the Matrix.
He's
in Janet's
the new architect.
You just run 30 minutes of him and Janet's Void.
He'd be awesome on The Good Place. Waste of talent.
All right, so that's it for us this week. You can go and support us over at patreon.com/tvdudes. Throw us a buck an episode and, help us keep our streaming services because they keep making new ones every day. And we're trying to keep up with all of them. Mm-hmm. And until next time,
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.